Let's look at the classification of reactions based on energy. Reactions can be classified as low energy, medium energy, and high energy reactions. If we consider low energy reaction, the energy range is something of the order of 10 MeV per nucleon or less than that. Now, if we go to medium energy reactions, those are reactions which involve energies from 100 MeV to 1 giga electron volt. And in this energy range, the possible reactions are mesons can be produced in this energy range, proton to neutron transformation can happen, or vice versa. And these are the possible nuclear reactions that can happen in the medium energy range. Now, if we go to high energy, it's greater than 1 giga electron volt. And in this energy range, all sorts of exotic particles can be produced, and internal rearrangement of quarks can also take place. Suppose we consider a nuclear reaction which is written as A plus X giving Y plus B, where A is the accelerated projectile which falls on a target X, and the target is usually stationary in the laboratory frame, and Y and B are the reaction products. Generally, Y will be the heavy product, and this will mainly stop within the target itself. It doesn't take much of the kinetic energy, and we usually don't observe Y directly. Whereas B will be the light particle that comes out of the target, and that is usually detected and measured. Okay, so an alternative way to represent the same reaction would be A and B within simple parentheses with X and Y outside. This representation, see this representation here, this would just mean that A is a projectile which falls on the target X, and this produces two products B and Y. B is the light particle that is directly observed. So if we are just told alpha n reaction, it would just mean alpha particle is the projectile which comes and hits a particular target, and a neutron is produced in the reaction which is observed outside. Okay, so reactions can be referred to like this also. So it's a convenient way to represent a particular nuclear reaction. If we look at the way in which reactions are classified, it's quite interesting. In certain reactions, this A and B, they are the same. They are exactly the same. That is incoming particle and what is going outside, they are the same. So what happens? X and Y also have to be the same. If the case is so that all particles are the same, if A and B are the same and X and Y are the same nucleus, then what sort of a reaction is this? It is nothing but a scattering process. Nothing different has happened here. A just comes and interacts with X, and it's the same A that goes outside, and it's the same X. And we say that it is an elastic process if both B and Y are in the ground states, and since there is no energy transfer between X and A, both Y and B are in the ground states, then it's called elastic scattering, and it is inelastic if either of these Y or B is in the excited state after the process has happened. So that's one sort of a reaction. It cannot be exactly called as a reaction, but still we classify it as a reaction. Now consider the case where A and B are the same, but in the process, that is A comes and hits the target X. And in the process, what happens is from X, a nucleon is knocked out. Okay, so the composition of X has changed and X is no longer X, it becomes Y. So, what is the product in this reaction? B is the outgoing particle that is detected, Y is the daughter nucleus, and you have another nucleon also that is being produced in the process. And such a process is called a knockout reaction. The name itself you can understand. A nucleon is knocked out of X. Now, in yet another type of reaction called the transfer reaction, as the name suggests, there is a transfer of one or two nucleons between the projectile and target. That is, A comes and hits X. Okay, we'll consider a real case example. Suppose you have an incoming deuteron. Okay, A is a deuteron. Suppose you imagine like that. And on interacting with X, deuteron is what? 1H2. Okay. And on interacting with X, it transfers one of its nucleon to the target X. So the composition of X will also change because a transfer of nucleon has happened and X will become Y. Now what will happen to A? It is the nucleon from A that has been transferred and the deuteron which came in is now going out as a proton or a neutron. Okay, so everything has changed. A will change and the outgoing particle will be something else, it will be B, and X will also change because there was a transfer of nucleon and it will become Y. The reaction is called a transfer reaction just because what is happening is there is a transfer of nucleons between the projectile and the target. Okay, now there are a class of reactions which are called direct reactions. And direct, again, you can infer something from the name. In a in a nucleus, there will be lots of nucleons, and only a few nucleons will be taking part in the reaction. So, rest of the nucleons in the target, they'll be passive spectators, and they'll not participate in the reaction. Only a few nucleons are participating in the reaction, and such a reaction is called direct reaction. And then some other reaction called the compound nucleus mechanism. What happens is A and X briefly merge, and there is a transfer of a complete sharing of energy between A and X. Then what happens is a nucleon is ejected and the reaction proceeds. But the intermediate state is something like A and X merging together. Suppose you consider two small drops of liquid and they are merging to form a big drop. And then again, the drop is something called unstable, and it again from that drop something evaporates off. Just imagine such a process, and that is what happens in compound nucleus mechanism. And then we also have see another extreme is the incoming particle. It forms a somewhat a bound state between the target and there is a bound state being formed, somewhat bound state, not exactly fully bound, but a quasi bound state is formed between the incoming particle and the target before the outgoing particle B is ejected. In compound nucleus reaction, actually there is no quasi bound state, it is just a merging and complete sharing of energy between A and X. And here it is something like the incoming particle fuses with X and forms a bound state, somewhat bound state, but again it's not a completely bound state. Then later on the outgoing particle B is ejected. So there are different types of reactions that we can see in the case of what we generally call a nuclear reaction. Now let's see what are the observables in a nuclear reaction. One thing that is possible to measure is the energy of the outgoing particle. We can determine the direction of emission of the outgoing particle and observe its angular distribution. These are possible to be observed. Then the other possible quantities that can be observed are differential cross section, total cross section, and spin orientation of product nucleus. Now, if you remember, we had discussed differential cross section before also when we dealt with scattering. And what is differential cross section? Differential cross section is nothing but the probability to observe the particle. The outgoing particle is what we represent as small letter b. So the probability to observe this particle b with a certain energy and coming at a certain angle theta phi with respect to the initial beam direction. Okay, so that is differential cross section. Now, integrating over all angles theta phi, you get the total cross section for the particle B. And it is also possible to observe the spin orientation of the product nucleus provided you have a polarized incident beam, a polarized target nuclei, and you have a spectrometer to analyze the polarization of the outgoing particle B. If all this is possible, it is possible to determine the spin orientation of the product nucleus Y. Now, for any reaction, there are certain conservation laws that have to be satisfied. Of these, the very important conservation laws are energy and linear momentum has to be conserved before and after the reaction. Now, conservation of proton and neutron number. At low energies, proton and neutron number should individually be conserved, but at higher energies, specifically proton and neutron number individual conservation is not what matters. The total nucleon number should be conserved. Okay, so please note the point. At low energies, individually proton and neutron number should be conserved before and after the reaction. Whereas for high energy processes, the nucleon number only needs to be conserved. Okay. Now, another conservation law is angular momentum should be conserved, and the net parity also before and after the reaction should be the same.